morning, everyone. Tomorrow, many in our city are facing eviction because of the expiration of certain COVID-19 rental protections. But that is not the headline of today. The headline is that for the first time, the city is taking a coordinated, proactive approach to assisting Angelenos to stay inside. Our message today to Angelenos is clear. Do not self-evict. If you receive a notice, file a response, and most importantly, reach out to the city for support. We are doing everything we can to move people off of the streets and into housing, but we know that we will only be able to solve our city's homelessness crisis if we work to prevent people from falling into homelessness in the first place. Just about a month ago, we saw the homeless count from last year, and we know that it has gone up. We want to make sure that that doesn't happen next year, but we're very concerned about the fact that many more people could fall into homelessness, which is why I've been working with our partners on the City Council, as well as the Housing Department and the Mayor's Fund, to prepare this unprecedented approach of proactive outreach directly to tenants and landlords at risk of eviction, and work to ensure that tenants and landlords have the resources they need during this important time. This is historic because of the targeted approach, which is possible because of language passed by the City Council earlier this year. So I want to acknowledge our leader here on this issue, Councilmember Nithya Raman, for her leadership in Council to make that happen, and her pledge to continue to work together to see this through. Ann Sewell, who is not here with us today, but Anna Ortega is, but I want to acknowledge our General Manager of the Housing Department for working with us to ensure that resources and services are available for those who need them. And Conway Collis, who is the President and CEO of the Mayor's Fund for Los Angeles, for the work that he is doing with the program We Are LA to ensure that the services actually get to those people who need them. I also want to acknowledge the courts for being open and receptive to the idea of helping get resources to those in need in a way that hasn't been done before, and I know that the council member will have more to say about that. With the August 1st deadline coming tomorrow, we are working around the clock to ensure that LA tenants know their rights and that resources are available to help in this difficult time. But as we've seen during the pandemic, simply providing resources is not enough. We have to make sure Angelenos actually know that the resources are available and get the resources. So earlier this year, the city launched a public information campaign that targeted Angelenos in high-risk zip codes. Ads were in multiple languages. They ran on the radio, in community papers, and even on food trucks. Of course, we also ran ads on social media platforms. But we need direct contact in addition to that, which is why the Mayor's Fund is working with the Housing Department. It is important to note that this work does not stop here, and it does not stop today. This is a sustained effort. In the coming days, the City Council will consider proposals from my office to utilize Measure ULA dollars to fund rental assistance, including a short-term emergency assistant program, an eviction defense prevention program, a tenant outreach and education program, and a protections from tenant harassment program to educate tenants as well as landlords about their rights. We will continue to lock arms with our partners to solve this crisis so that everyone in Los Angeles has a safe place to sleep at night and that no one is sleeping on the streets. I want to close by emphasizing that our goal, again, is to keep people in their homes. The headline today is that there is help available and that the city is taking unprecedented actions to keep Angelenos inside and to make sure that landlords, especially small landlords, do not go into foreclosure. So rental assistance goes directly to those landlords to help keep their tenants inside. And now I want to, before actually introducing Councilwoman Raman, I want to introduce our Chief for Housing and Homelessness, Mercedes Marquez, who will have a few words in Spanish.
Buenos días a todos. Soy Mercedes Márquez, jefa de Soluciones de Vivienda y Personas sin Hogar. Mañana, muchos en nuestra comunidad se enfrentarán a desalojos debido a la expiración de ciertas protecciones de alquiler de COVID-19. Pero ese no es el titular de hoy. El titular es que por primera vez la ciudad está adoptando un enfoque coordinado y proactivo para ayudar a los angelinos a permanecer alojados. Nuestro mensaje de hoy a los angelinos es claro: no se desalojen a sí mismos. Si recibe un aviso, presenten una respuesta. Y lo más importante, comuníquense con la ciudad para obtener apoyo llamando al 866-557-7368. La alcaldesa ha estado trabajando con nuestros socios en el Consejo Municipal, así como el Departamento de Vivienda de Los Ángeles y el Fondo de la Alcaldesa para preparar este enfoque sin precedentes al alcance proactivo directamente a los inquilinos en riesgo de desalojo y trabajar para asegurarnos que los inquilinos y los propietarios tengan los recursos que necesitan durante este importante momento. También quiero reconocer a los tribunales por estar abiertos y receptivos a la idea de ayudar a obtener recursos para los necesitados de una manera como nunca se ha hecho. Y sé que el concejal dirá más sobre esto. Con la fecha limitada de 1 de agosto, de mañana, estamos trabajando día y noche para garantizar que los inquilinos de Los Ángeles conozcan sus derechos y recursos que están disponibles para ayudarlos en este difícil momento. A principios de este año, la ciudad lanzó una campaña de información pública dirigida a los angelinos en códigos postales identificados como de alto riesgo. Pero es necesario un contacto directo, razón por la cual el Fondo de la Alcaldesa de Los Ángeles está trabajando con el Departamento de Vivienda de Los Ángeles para llevar a cabo actividades de divulgación proactiva a través de llamadas telefónicas y tocando puertas para asegurarnos que los angelinos en riesgo en toda la ciudad estén al tanto de los pasos que pueden tomar para permanecer alojados. En los próximos días, el Consejo Municipal considerará propuestas de la Oficina de la Alcaldesa para utilizar los dólares de la medida ULA para financiar programas de asistencia de alquiler que incluyen un programa de asistencia de emergencia a corto plazo que permitirá a los hogares de inquilinos elegibles de bajos recursos solicitar hasta 6 meses de alquiler atrasado debido a única dificultad económica. Segundo, un programa de educación y alcance para inquilinos y una amplia campaña de alcance para proporcionar servicios educativos y específicos para los inquilinos, incluyendo talleres, clínicas legales, publicidad pagada y información en los medios y redes sociales especificados. Tercero, y un programa de protecciones contra el acoso de inquilinos para educar a los mismos, así como a los propietarios sobre sus derechos y obligaciones, y para hacer cumplir las protecciones contra el acoso de los inquilinos. Quiero terminar enfatizando que nuestro objetivo, nuevamente, es mantener a las personas en sus hogares. El titular de hoy es que hay ayuda disponible. La ciudad está tomando medidas sin precedentes para mantener a los angelinos alojados. No tengan miedo, comuníquense con la ciudad. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much, Mercedes. Let me now introduce Councilwoman Nithya Raman, who led the effort on the City Council in the passage of the tenant protections.
Thank you, Mayor Bass, for your leadership, and to everyone on your team who has been working with all of our city partners over the past few weeks as we approach tomorrow's deadline for repayment of COVID rent debt. For those of us who've worked on eviction prevention or homelessness prevention work, one of the most devastating parts of this work is that the people who need support the most often don't know about the resources that are available to them. To me, that's why this moment feels different from ones before, because thanks to the new pieces of tenant legislation that we passed at the end of January, landlords now have to file with LAHD every time they file a notice to evict their tenants. This is new information the city never had access to before, but we do now. This means that we have an opportunity to target our resources to those people who are most at risk of losing their homes because of an inability to pay. That means that really, for the first time, because this is the first time that we've had access to this kind of data, the city is coordinating on a proactive campaign to reach out to those most vulnerable tenants and to help them stay housed. With the partnership of the outreach workers that are employed through the Mayor's Fund, with LAHD and staff at the Family Source Centers, the city will be reaching out to people who are receiving these notices to let them know what this notification means for them, helping them to file a response within the time provided if they have already received a UD, and ensuring that they are aware of any resources that are available to them, whether it be case management, legal support, or settlement money for back rent owed through the Eviction Defense Program, or, as soon as it is available, applications for rent relief through our first tranche of ULA dollars. The second critical piece of the puzzle lies in our partnership with the courts. Following discussions with the mayor, the Mayor's Fund, and her team, the courts are going to do as much as possible to ensure that tenants, again, have the resources that they need at this critical moment. As a first step, the courts are going to substantially expand notices for those who have received a UD filing, including ways of telling people how to connect with all of the services that are available to them, and simplifying that language to make it easier for lay people to understand what they are receiving. The courts will also be expanding on-site resources in the courthouses for people in need. And finally, the courts will be encouraging cases to go into mediation and other pathways for alternative resolution. And Mayor Bass and I call on judges to do as much of this as possible, to give people the lifeline they need to find resources to help them stay housed. If we aim to solve our homelessness crisis, then this piece of the puzzle, protecting people to stay in their homes, is non-negotiable. We must prevent people from falling into homelessness in the first place. And the need couldn't be greater. Based on the data that we're seeing from the courts, eviction filings from the past 12 months were 27,000, and if they continue at the rate that we've been seeing, will increase by another 10,000 for this upcoming year. Today is an important step in reshaping the machinery of the city towards keeping people housed and towards putting homelessness prevention at the core of our city's mission. And I want to thank everyone who has been working around the clock to ensure that Angelenos have the resources they need to stay safe and secure, including our Stay Housed LA partners, our community leaders who have kept up the drumbeat of the importance of this moment for all of us, the chair and vice chair of our ULA committee who are here with us today, Michelle Coulter Espinoza and Alan Greenlee, and our city partners who have been working so hard. With that, I'd like to turn it over to the CEO of the Mayor's Fund, Conway Collis.
Thank you, Council Member, and thank you, Mayor Bass, and thank you, Council Member Raymond, for the extraordinary leadership that you provided. We're not surprised, but we're very grateful. The Mayor's Fund is an independent nonprofit. We are working as part of the Mayor's overall homeless plan focused on prevention. We bring in private and foundation funding to build on the very substantial foundation that the city, the housing department, Stay Housed, and working very closely with the Family Source Centers to focus on prevention. We brought together 9 community groups, the largest community health center in Los Angeles, private attorneys, Esperanza Community Housing to help provide case management. We brought them together as part of We Are LA. We Are LA has 150 outreach workers who are working in their communities to call people, to knock on doors, and over 50 case managers. They may be called promotoras, They may be called tenant navigators. They may be called patient navigators, depending on where they work. But they are providing the critical case management. In the last just over 6 weeks, as we've ramped up, We Are LA has had direct conversations with over 40,000 at-risk Angelenos. By mid-September, We Are LA will have reached out to 200,000 at-risk Angelenos and will continue the work after that. We target the outreach by using census data, using voter rolls, using the community group's knowledge of the communities in which they work, and now using the notices of eviction that the city, through the foresight of the council and the council member, have put in place. The experience after having reached out to that first 40,000 people is that about 11,000 of them need direct services of some kind, direct support services that they're currently eligible for but aren't receiving. And about 1,400 of those people are facing emergency eviction and need emergency legal assistance. So we are providing both the access to direct services for people as well as direct access to legal assistance if that's what's required. So just a word about that, because the question is, well, why not just provide emergency assistance to people who are facing eviction? Why also provide access to services? And the reason for that is, to address homelessness, we have to also understand that it is substantially a problem of poverty. So we got to walk and chew gum at the same time. We've got to both provide services to people, give them access to it, to the programs that they're already eligible for. It's not new government funding. And the reason that's important is that if they receive those services, they're not in a position of not being able to pay their rent. So it's both helping people get the services they're entitled to and providing direct access to legal services. Just a word about that. We found, are leaving as much as $10,000 a year on the table in terms of benefits that either they don't know they're eligible for, they don't know how to apply for, they can't fight their way through a bureaucracy. We all know how difficult that is. Or perhaps they're afraid to apply. If people do need legal services, we're helping people access that in two ways. First, we're in the process of, with the mayor's direct involvement, recruiting 200,000 pro bono private attorneys to supplement the work of the current legal aid organizations. And second, this part is critical. Part of what the case managers are doing, in addition to connecting people to services and legal help, they're also directly working with tenants to file the answer to a notice of eviction, so that people aren't left to do that on themselves. And by simply filing an answer, it provides more time to work out an arrangement with landlords. A final word. I want to re-emphasize the encouragement for tenants to not self-evict. There is help on the way. There's a way to directly connect to services, and also to landlords. And the landlords have borne a good deal of the results of the lack of money for tenants to pay for rent. For landlords too, there is help on the way, and there are resources that the city's made available, and more will be coming. So we're all in this together, and we all need to treat it that way. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Anna Ortega from the Department of Housing.
Good morning, Anna Ortega, Assistant General Manager from the Housing Department. On behalf of General Manager Ann Sewell, I would like to thank Mayor Bass and Councilwoman Rahman and all of the City Council for their leadership on this issue, as well as the Mayor's Fund for their support. Earlier this year, the council adopted robust new tenant protections and expanded just cause eviction protections for all city renters. This is the first time the city expanded protections beyond the rent stabilization ordinance. LHD offers webinars and services and education to educate tenants and landlords about their rights. A wealth of information is available on the LAHD website at housing.lacity.org. And we are also serving as a conduit to link some of the services that have been introduced to you today at our landlord-tenant hotline number, which is 866-557-7368. We have operators standing by to assist and gather information about renters and provide referrals to some of the caseworkers and navigators that are part of the new program. We also have housing investigators who investigate complaints from tenants who believe that their landlord is not following the requirements of the city laws. So our hotline operators can intake complaints from those renters and also provide information to both renters and landlords about some of the services that are available to them. Other services are available through our eviction defense program through the Stay Housed LA network, which offers various levels of services from information to eviction prevention self-tool to limited scope legal representation, and for the most vulnerable, high priority renters, a full scope legal representation. So if I can leave one message with the public that might be hearing us today, it's to remind renters that if they receive an eviction notice, don't wait. Act right away. It's important that you get help and respond to an unlawful detainer within 5 days. So that's our key message today. LHD is standing by to provide information on the new programs and create those links with renters who need help and all of the services that the city is initiating. Thank you very much.